Aloha homies! This is XNAFO, and I'm going to be doing a very different video today. I was scrolling YouTube when I got this video in my recommendation. A video criticized by Shady Durags and I forget what, and Just a Robot criticizing a video by Cosmonaut Variety Hour. And it's something I'm curious in checking out myself and giving my own take on what they say. For background information, She-Hulk is a show that a lot of people didn't really like, and Cosmonaut seems... And also, let me give background about my personal relationship between these three YouTubers. Big fan of Cosmonaut Variety Hour, big fan of Shady Durags. Just a Robot is someone I used to be a fan of, but am now a little bit more iffy on. So let's go ahead and watch this. I'm bound to enjoy it, but I'm also probably going to criticize it some.
She-Hulk.
Oh yeah, if you want to watch the video yourself, I'm gonna watch the whole thing, but I do recommend going and watching these videos yourself. And yeah, I'm just gonna react to this and give my opinion on whether or not I like the video or not.
She-Hulk is fine. You guys are just being dumb.
I don't like that thing. Hey, hello, how do you do? Shady Durags here. She-Hulk Attorney at Law came out last year, and holy dongles, what a fiasco this show was. Every reviewer under the sun was talking about it, and almost everything said was negative. Shoot, even I made a video mocking it, and I normally don't touch MCU stuff. Other than maybe Rings of Power, She-Hulk was the most infamous show of 2022 YouTube. But in the darkness came a light. For one YouTuber would rise above the others and actually give She-Hulk some positive praise. Cosmonaut Variety Hour. And he's full of poopy. Joking aside, Cosmonaut wasn't actually the only well-known reviewer who went against the grain when it comes to She-Hulk. Doug Walker felt people over...
I feel like I haven't said a lot, and that's just because I'm reacting. Well, that just says a lot about the reaction thing. Alright, so we got this set up. There isn't really much to say yet.
Exaggerated how bad the show was, and Angry Joe probably has the most infamous take of defending the first couple of episodes. But the difference between Cosmonaut and others like him is either he wasn't actually paying attention to what he watched, or he's being extremely disingenuous. Even Doug and Joe, in the end, admitted the show was bad. I said this in my Elsa video, and I'll say it again. I can handle someone else having a different opinion than mine.
Oh, the Elsa video. And the Elsa video is actually what introduced me to Shady Durag and why I'm a fan of his channel. And I tended to agree with his take on Elsa compared to Shay Frillis Productions, who is another YouTuber I really like.
But when that person misrepresents something, it kind of ticks me off. Unfortunately, despite being the superhero lover that I am, I actually know very little about She-Hulk specifically. I read maybe 2 books on her. Granted, one of those books was the Dan Slott one that the show is based off of, but I've heard rumors that Dan's books are not a good source on this character. Long story short, I'm gonna need some help with this one.
Oh yeah! Well, I live in Texas.
What?
I don't get the
This is a
joke.
Shady Durags video, so I assume you were about to review a King of the Hill episode. Am I right?
No.
Now, before we get started, I didn't really make my feelings clear about She-Hulk. Yes, I did that parody, which might make you think I hated it, but I also did the same type of parody on several movies that I like. I'm not going to say anything revolutionary here. I agree with the popular opinion that this show is trash, one of the worst big budget shows, if not one of the worst shows, period, I've ever seen. With the way it handles Hulk and superhero topics, it's an insult to the superhero genre. And with the way it handles its own climax, it's an insult to storytelling in general. One of the few good...
Yeah, I don't know much about the show other than from what I saw, it just seemed kind of unfunny. So yeah, I do want to make myself very clear that I'm kind of going into this with a unique perspective. Because the last time these two did let me put it this way. The last time I saw a video of these two doing something together, it was responding to something that was kind of not that well researched or well informed, but also had some issues of internalized homophobia. I I could address on that, but I don't really feel like I'm wanting to see if those patterns continue, and if not, I will be happily surprised.
Good things I can say about it is that the acting is okay. Despite the horrendous writing and despite how slightly over the top the caricatures were, I did believe most of the cast were who they were pretending to be. And unlike most people, I do actually like the parts with Madison, but only when she's with Wong because I think they make a decent foil.
As for me, She-Hulk feels like it was a show that was designed just to piss people off. There are so many convenient things that happen just for the plot to get started, and also convenient things happening just for the plot to get resolved. The show writers clearly don't know the most basic things about the law. There are way too many cameos, and the show goes against its own rules it set up for itself constantly. I already did a full review of every episode on my channel if you want more information. And hey, if you like debunked videos like the one you're watching now, well, I also got a few of those.
Alright, that's enough stalling. Let's dive into it.
She-Hulk is fine. You guys are just being dumb.
No, 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 no! Are you really gonna make me start this thing off with an ad hominem? Ugh, I hate giving people ad hominems.
Basically, they're irrelevant to the argument.
Well, yeah, there's that, but I don't like doing it because it opens the door for people to give me an ad hominem. And I'm sensitive.
You have no idea how badly I want to make this the title of this video.
For the record, this is my first ever Cosmonaut video, and my goodness gracious, the way he speaks drives me nuts. And no, I'm not talking about the nasaliness. I know he's sick. I'm talking about that almost monotone, I don't care as much as everyone else. I get it, it's a style, and one that a lot of people like apparently, but good gravy, it sounds like he's putting in no effort doing his voice lines.
But Shady, not caring about important things is cool.
I decide what's cool.
Okay, well this is this is an okay criticism. I feel like, I don't know, maybe it just, I don't see it as such a big deal.
She-Hulk is fine. You guys are just being dumb. You have no idea how badly I want to make this the title of this video. I feel like baiting the reactionary crowd today.
You do have to be careful about your titles. I've gotten hate just for my titles on my videos before. I make something clickbaity, and people think that's my genuine opinion throughout the video.
I'm not gonna pretend like I hate all clickbaiting or that I've never made a clickbait title myself, and I can't deny that I empathize with people getting angry at a title without looking at the nuance of a video. But there's a fun and proper way to do clickbait titles that both you and your audience can enjoy, and a scummy way to do it where you're just flat out deceiving your audience. What you did is a scummy, deceptive way. Also, it was done in bad faith, much like the She-Hulk show itself.
For those wondering what he means when he says reactionary, it's basically the left-wing equivalent of when right-wingers use the term SJW.
Here we go. Here we go. This is the kind of stuff I want to debunk. Ooh boy. Oh boy, this is what I came in here for. No. My issue with Just a Robot and why I kind of fell off of him is that he often falsely believes that the left and right wing are equally stupid. Now, time for me to get political. I may have made hints at it. I'm pretty left wing. And for that reason, I have issues with this representation of the term reactionary. And because reactionary refers to people who want to take back laws that have been put in place. It's a very true term, and it's, now, do some people use it incorrectly in like a buzzword? Probably, but I think Just a Robot is making a false equivalence here.
It's just a catch-all term for anyone who disagrees with him.
Jar, you can't say stuff like that.
Why not?
Because a good chunk of my audience is right-wing, including me, you stupid SJW.
And disclaimer for those of you who get mad at YouTube.
That was a joke. I have nothing to say about that.
No, you aren't dumb for not liking the show. But it's just not that bad. I swear this past month or so has felt like it lasted an eternity. I have to go online and see people complain about the new She-Hulk episode and claim that it's the worst show they've ever seen.
Wait a second, I just said that like 60 seconds ago. He's talking about me.
If you really say that, I think you need to watch more shows.
I can see your point if you're talking about reviewers. It is possible that I, Shady Durags, a guy who gets paid to review shows, need to expand my palette more. However, saying this to the average person makes no sense. Most people aren't looking to watch bad shows. Why would they seek out worse ones than She-Hulk? Now,
Yeah.
maybe Cosmonaut is talking about reviewers explicitly. The problem is, he doesn't make that clear. He just says he's talking about people online, and that could mean anyone.
And you know, you'd think this was
Yeah, that's Cosmonaut. As much as I love Cosmonaut's content, I do think Cosmonaut has an issue of being vague. He doesn't put as much thought around the stuff he makes as someone like Shady Durag, for example.
actually a bad.
He's he's the definition of the elephant and the writer. He has the elephant, say, like most people. He's not really able to put his stuff eloquently. It very much so sounds like. I still like his
In
content though,
actuality, it's just
although it's mainly the D&D stuff. I still like this stuff, but I've kind of grown out of it slightly.
inoffensive. Well, it's inoffensive if you're not a member of the sensitive vocal minority.
Ah yes, the sensitive vocal minority. Even if you think all those dislikes underneath your video are just from a sensitive minority of people, then how do you explain Disney's stocks being at their worst in several decades? Obviously, She-Hulk isn't the sole reason, but when you consider that a lot of Disney's other properties are also full of these, same talking points, there seems to be a pattern here that we can follow. Also, I'm not sure how a show being offensive is related to it being enjoyable. South Park is offensive, and it's enjoyed by a lot of people.
Including me.
Instead of blaming things on a loud minority, maybe consider that you might just have the unpopular opinion. Which is okay, just don't be a dingus about it. I like X-Men Origins Wolverine, which is a very unpopular opinion.
It's here that I can X-Men Origins, really? It's here that I can start talking.
I understand why people dislike them. I don't hate it, but people definitely dislike that movie for a good reason. What did they do to Deadpool, man? That's how you're going to introduce Deadpool to people? Take away his
Two of my major problems with Cosmonaut's video. First of all, it's very antagonistic, which again is
True. Base take from Shady here. And Cosmonaut has an issue of kind of assuming the worst of people.
a style choice, but if you want people to listen to your opinion, which I assume Cosmonaut does, then you shouldn't attack theirs right out the gate. Cosmonaut doesn't know anything about the people watching his video, but if they were offended by She-Hulk, they must be part of the sensitive vocal minority, even if they clicked on his video to consider a different opinion. Just like the trollish title, the video itself is done in bad faith. The second issue here is
That's
that
fair.
Cosmonaut is both careful and reckless with his diction. According to Cosmonaut, the only people who would find the show offensive is the sensitive vocal minority. However, it was only a few sentences ago that he said a lot of people were calling it the worst show they've ever seen.
That is true. That's contradicting yourself.
Literally, the worst ever. I've seen so many people claim that online.
A few moments later.
And you know, you'd think this was actually a bad show, when in actuality, it's just inoffensive. Well, it's inoffensive if you're not a member of the sensitive vocal minority.
Now, it is possible that the various complaints Cosmonaut saw online were a part of the vocal minority he's referring to. After all, we all know a lot of
That's
people
also
on
true.
Twitter agree on certain topics, but in the grand scheme of things, they are the minority. The key here is to wait for Cosmonaut to define what he means by that statement.
He's not going to do that.
Does he even do that?
Well, it's funny you should ask that pertinent question that I wrote in the script for you.
Now, I tend not to like the kind of defense that some production teams take with certain projects. The defense that, if you don't like our show or movie, you're either a racist or a sexist or you're homophobic. And in the case of She-Hulk, it's no surprise that a lot of people who don't really like women that much don't really like this show.
That is as far as Cosmonaut elaborates on critics being a part of the loud vocal minority. So, to recap, if you didn't find She-Hulk inoffensive, you are part of the loud vocal minority, which is to say you hate women. That excuse that Cosmonaut just said he hates when studios make.
Sure, there's always going to be a few sexist people who won't like a movie/show. for that reason or another.
Just a lot I could say about this. This is the kind of stuff I was waiting to react to. And let them finish.
But where was all of that massive backlash when it came to Alita Battle Angel or Arcane?
It's funny because
Okay, those are examples of I get it. That's a good comparison, but I do think that there are times where the backlash isn't unwarranted. Like, you could have also given examples of, sure, there's time. You should probably mention times it also has been the case. Like, I don't know, The Last Jedi. Even though that movie was not the best by any means, or maybe even pretty bad. I don't know. I'm kind of a Star Wars fanboy, so I definitely am lighter on that show than others, on Star Wars products than others. The backlash that Rose's actors got was awful. And I know these guys are video people, but we could also talk about, they could even mention how incorrectly the backlash for, I just feel like, let's actually let them talk more and see if they're willing to acknowledge any of that.
I know what he wants his point to be. He's trying to say that people who hate this show just because it stars a woman exist, but they don't make up everyone who critiques it. But his wording and lack of distinction is both separating and lumping all She-Hulk critics together.
But in the case of this show, I don't really think there's anything they could have done to avoid Gamer Boy rage.
Maybe they could have made it good. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. Arcane managed to avoid all of that backlash.
Arcane sexism. So people definitely care about... I feel like what Cosmonaut was getting at is that, to some degree, there are always going to be people who criticize things just because there's a woman. But at the same also time, because I'm not seeing any negative stuff, I'm seeing people praising the feministness of this, and yeah. But the way he dresses it up is that people... I don't know.
Just saying.
I was thinking that if you don't want Gamer Boy rage, maybe don't go out of your way to provoke it, but your idea works too.
Like, let's look at the most controversial MCU stories told so far. The ones that caused the most debate online. Captain Marvel and She-Hulk. Are we seeing a pattern
I have issues with Captain Marvel.
here?
You mean that they're both awful properties that tried to shoehorn Mary Sue-esque characters into an already successful franchise, taking the opportunity to berate what the MCU had already established and push gender narratives that didn't fit? Oh no, you mean that they both star women.
Your pattern only includes 2 movies, which are obviously selective examples just to prove...
Yeah, I have issue. This is where I get, like, kind of... As you can tell, I'm just kind of rattling off my thoughts during all of this. Don't expect... this is the first time I've made a video of this type, so I'm no Xander Hall here. So I feel like there's better criticisms that could be made of this kind of stuff. But also, maybe I'm just assuming negative stuff.
Prove your point. Why don't you show the Rotten Tomatoes score for Wonder Woman? Or if you just want to stick to Marvel, Black Widow.
I think they would have gotten mad about Miss Marvel too, but they didn't watch it because it has brown people in it.
Okay, that's a funny joke. But Miss Marvel seems really good, unironically. But I don't think it's fair to attribute all the criticism to shows like... Because I know Cosmonaut also made a video defending... Was it defending? He called it a politics-free review, which is, in my opinion, something impossible to do. So I have seen... And I didn't dislike it, but I also don't like it that much either. I like the main story arc, but the main character has some personality and tonal issues. It didn't really feel like a feminist story, as it felt more like... I don't know. I like the plot twist in Captain Marvel, though.
Okay, to be fair, I am guilty of skipping this movie, but that's because I don't care about Ms. Marvel, nor does anyone for that matter.
This part of the video right here is a primary reason why I hate Cosmonaut's tone. I, for the life of me, cannot tell if he's joking or not. There are those out there who legitimately think that's the reason people didn't watch Ms. Marvel.
They only watched this because they heard Daredevil was going to be in it. If he wasn't in it at all, most people probably wouldn't have watched it.
I'm not gonna argue that.
Well, I am. So you claim that audiences didn't watch Ms. Marvel because it has brown people in it. But those same people watched She-Hulk because it had Daredevil in it. Are you claiming that people would have watched Ms. Marvel if it also had a fan favorite character make a cameo? I'm just trying to find out your straw man's highest priority here. Also, you neglect to mention that Daredevil was teased constantly, but he didn't show up until episode 7!
Some of the people who hate
Fair
this show
criticism.
just hate it because the character of She-Hulk occasionally says that dudes don't rock sometimes.
What? And the word for today, boys and girls, is disingenuous. She-Hulk doesn't just say dudes don't rock sometimes. The show is outwardly antagonistic to the very concept of men.
Jen completely craps on Hulk by doing things like implying he's done less work on his anger issues than her, because she gets catcalled sometimes.
Alright, this is why I like to Google things. She-Hulk. The feeling of these titles seemed a mix of questionableness.
Well, here's the thing, Bruce. I'm great at controlling my anger. I do it all the time. When I'm catcalled in the street, when incompetent men explain my own area of expertise to me. So I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you.
Like, you know Hulk's backstory, right? Even if you haven't read the comics, saying something like that to even movie Hulk goes beyond insulting. It's just plain stupid, but the show acts like Jen has a point. It doesn't matter if dudes don't rock sometimes. That's just awful writing with a clear agenda attached to it.
And that's just one example. Let's go
Agendas aren't... I hate when people are like, this has an agenda, so this is bad. Having an agenda is everything. Everything has a message. Everything has a point. As H-Bomber Guy would put it, everyone who says they don't like politics does like politics. They just want to see different politics than the ones that they're calling politics.
through some more men from the show. There's a POC She-Hulk date. He's buff and reads feminist literature. He leaves her because he discovers she also has a human form that he's not into.
Would you have gone on the date if She-Hulk had instead presented as Jennifer Walters?
No. She's, not really my type. But She-Hulk, She-Hulk's incredible.
With that extremely attractive man set in there, you can do better. You deserve better.
And the next brand.
That's just bad writing. I don't like that extremely attractive man. Yeah. One thing I want to settle is that I do think She-Hulk is probably a bad show. I think I've mentioned this before, but it seems like way too unintelligent in how it handles sexism and on the nose. Like, Shady Durags has reviewed other superhero shows. The Teen Titans show handles racism better than She-Hulk is handling sexism.
Unfold.
And this also was just a priority.
I turn into an owl and fly up to see.
Ooh, D&D ad.
There's the Abomination, who the show decides isn't really the Abomination and is actually just a nice guy who wants to help others. But even with them showing what a nice guy he is, we're still supposed to believe he's someone deserving of 10 more years in prison just for making Jen look bad.
Emil, You've been transforming into the Abomination.
Yeah, I do speaking engagements. Nothing bad, strictly for profit.
I vouched for you. After all that, I just want him to hold himself accountable. All right, as your legal counsel, you understand that if you sign this, you go back to prison for 10 years for violating your parole.
Yep. It's the karmic price I pay for my actions.
There's Todd, there's Dennis.
Jennifer's other dates, all those retired supervillains, and let's not forget that every member of Intelligentsia was a man. At almost every corner, this show is mocking men just for existing.
Now, to be fair, the show does have some men that it doesn't constantly mock. Jen's father, Holloway, Daredevil, Black Namode, Wong. The problem is that there always seems to be an alternative reason as to why these characters are portrayed competently. Take Jen's dad, for example. He's probably the best character in the show, but that's because the writers wanted to make this joke.
What's with all the daddy issues? We got Tony Stark, daddy issues.
Jen.
Thor, daddy issues. Loki, same daddy.
Without Jen seeming like a hypocrite.
See, when a show or a movie has a woman as the main character and she likes to say stuff like that, personally, I don't really care. It doesn't really bother me because I'm normal.
Most people immediately care when they're insulted, especially if it's repeatedly done by the same entity. I can definitely buy that you specifically don't care, or maybe you do, but you decide to take the high road, but saying not caring about an insult being normal.
But I feel like they're saying not that, like, when somebody says something feminist when it's not an insult. I just kind of feel like there's this... I feel like these people care more about how honest to goodness bad the show is than feminism. Well, obviously, they don't care about feminism. At least, I don't think Just a Robot cares about feminism. I don't have much information from that, but that's the vibe I get off. But I just kind of feel like priorities.
Is stretching it.
See, the insults would bother me less if it wasn't in basically every movie/show coming out nowadays.
Wrong! It's in way too many corporate shows that don't understand how to handle feminism. There are plenty of good modern shows that handle feminism well. But you talk about this. You seem to be overly sensitive to this type of insult or this type of bad writing. Even if it is bad writing, sometimes the way people react to bad media can be telling of internal problems.
I know you like to think it's just a loud minority who hate the show, and you're just a normal guy, but that's cope. Symptoms include denying reality, liking modern-day movies/shows, and strawmanning your opponents.
I don't like how they determine how they have this modern-day bad type stuff when there's been plenty of good modern-day stuff. Modern-day classics like Puss in Boots, The Last Wish. I think that Pinocchio's show was good. Also, you guys talked about good modern shows earlier. Freaking, what was it called? You mentioned, I can't think. You mentioned the show Arcane, which is a very modern but also pretty feminist show.
There's just no way to avoid getting criticism from dudes like that. They're not gonna like the show either way because you have to make the She-Hulk show a girl boss show, or it wouldn't be faithful to the character at all.
Buddy, did we watch the same show? Because I missed the part where she was a girl boss. Sure, people would hate this show regardless of... Actually, no. Alita Battle Angel had a female character as its lead, and people liked the first Wonder Woman despite it being a girl boss movie. You saying it needs to be faithful to the character is such a cop-out.
Yeah, that's actually true. The faithfulness to the character thing, especially since Kazuma has specifically liked stuff that wasn't faithful to the character. Example, he really likes Iron Man 3 because of the twist they did on the Mandarin, which was not faithful to the comics. So yeah, that is hypocritical.
You made a claim, but you didn't prove anything.
So the show has two choices. Make a normal, pedestrian, boring show about a proud She-Hulk lady that the gamer babies are gonna get mad at anyway, or make a show where the strong Hulk lady also makes fun of them in every episode.
Haha, he really just said gamer babies.
How limited is your imagination that those are the only two concepts you can imagine with this setup? We have media with girl bosses that don't rag on guys. When you have to put another character down...
Avatar's really good about it. They don't rag on guys. Though that is something I've noticed about both of these people. Whenever they tend to have this taking the high road mentality in which you're not supposed to make fun of the people making fun of you, but like, I don't know, that just feels very moralistic, and I'm much more of a consequentialist. I do think the show is bad. Just, there's some stuff in here I didn't like because it shows off their weird biases. Especially in Just a Robot. But yeah, otherwise, pretty inoffensive video. Let me see if this is interesting to y'all. Then I guess I'll make more. I feel like this was a very spur-of-the-moment video. This isn't gonna be much, so I'm gonna just stop here before I overexert myself. Bye-bye.